Making games is hard. Finishing games is even harder. So here's a pile of game projects I started on, but never finished. The first game on the list is called Blast. I love sci-fi first-person shooters that start with B, and this was my attempt at adding to that very specific subset of games. The game was a roguelike with wildly varying abilities. I stopped working on the project because I had no clue what I wanted the game to look like, and no money to get someone to make art for the game. Figuring out how to add art to the game is the reason I stopped working on most of these projects. The next game is Block Dude 3D. This one is simply the calculator game Block Dude, made in the third dimension. The programming for this project is done, but I stopped when it came to making levels. For this one, I wanted to make the art for the game in voxels to match some of the original Block Dude aesthetic, but I never got around to it. Another game I made was called Stunt Planet. I love the look of planetoids in games, and thought it might be fun to make a simple mobile game revolving around one. In this game, you ride around the planet on a hoverboard doing sweet tricks. Every revolution you do in the air speeds up the board so you can catch more air every jump, until you fly high enough to enter orbit around the planet. Again, I got the programming mostly completed, then stopped caring when I didn't know how to approach the art. I had a job where some of my coworkers had some experience making games, so we decided to start up a project. To keep it simple, we landed on a simple mail delivery game inspired by the Delibird minigame in Pokemon Snap. You run around delivering mail as fast as you can, while trying to avoid being over-encumbered. I got the basic gameplay working while someone else made the houses. We met online twice, slipped a deadline we set, then never talked again. Plant Planet was a fun idea that went nowhere. To try to get around my fear of making art, I looked up a tutorial on procedurally generating art. It helped me make some cool tree trunks, but I didn't get much farther than that because it seemed really silly to generate art when I could just take the same amount of time to actually learn it. At one point, I interviewed for a job at Sphero. Sphero is a company that makes robotic balls that you drive around with your phone. To show off to them, I decided to make a game that utilizes the ball. The idea was a Where's Waldo style game, where you rotate the Sphero to rotate a planet around and find the one derpy sheep in the bunch. My girlfriend at the time made the sheep while I made it work in Unity. I don't entirely remember why I stopped working on this, but I think it was shortly before 2016, where I spent an entire year being horribly depressed. I tried tackling an idea about making a marble game MMO once. It seemed like the simplest game I could make that could still be an MMO. I made the basics for the marble using basic Unity prefabs, and found that I'm not all too familiar with marble games. I'm even less familiar with MMOs, and decided someone with a little more experience with both could try tackling it. One of the latest ideas I tried tackling was a puzzle platformer where the player can turn gravity on and off at will. I set it on a space station to keep the background simple. In the end, after getting the mechanic working, I realized this was just another indie puzzle platformer and I wanted to make something a little more unique. I'll probably loop around to this idea again in the future. Before I get to the last few games, here's some stuff I found while digging through my hard drive to find these old projects. I enjoy caving, and I made a little project exploring cave generation through cellular automata. I also found whatever this little guy is under something titled Procedurally Generated Fighting Game, which I think is one of the many proto-versions of my latest game, Altercation. This last thing was an attempt to boil down an action RPG to a single plane, which was a little too simple to be interesting. There was a month or two near the end of last year that I got into tabletop role-playing game design, enough to try tackling making my own system. I've never run a game, but I've been a player a few times and I listened to some podcasts, which seems like the perfect delusional place to start making my own system. I wanted to make something that was ridiculously flexible, but structured enough to have every action be definitive. I got the rules written up and made some character sheets, but when it came to get people together to test it, I just didn't. I've got no clue if it's any good, but I like to think it's got some great new ideas that aren't too wild. The latest failure to launch was a Paper Mario-alike I called The Adventures of Elsie and Ven. The game is about a couple having adventures through space. I feel like I don't see enough media that portrays a couple in a strong, healthy relationship, especially in video games, and I wanted to make stories in that space. To keep it small, I decided to make short episodes of the game. I created a whole cast of characters in pixel art, wrote up some dialogue for a scene, created a way to show those scenes, and started on the battle system. The first adventure would take place in an abandoned cereal factory, fighting off old security robots. In the end, I broke the battle system and had trouble making the environment, so I stopped working on it. I put a bunch of work into this project. I love the ideas behind it, and I really want to get an artist friend to help me finish this. My last unfinished project is something I'm still working on. All of the work I did on Elsie and Ven gave me a good start for making my latest game, Altercation. I love character creation and decided to make a game that is the ultimate character creator. I took the character designs from Elsie and Ven and turned it into the basis for the character creation in Altercation. Go follow the social media for this project, and if you feel so inclined, there's a Patreon where you can throw money at me to help support me in making the game. All this is to say, never stop making stuff. All of these projects really helped me hone down what I like to make, and every one of these projects taught me lessons I could use on the next project. Also, if you're an artist that is interested in helping out with any of these ideas, please hit me up. I have money now, and would love to have some artistic help on so many different projects. If you're a fan of any of these ideas, yell at me in the comments about which of these ideas you want to see be made into a finished product. This video is the second in a 3-part series. The first video was about a decade of game projects I actually finished. This video was about everything I didn't finish, and the last video is a bunch of ideas I haven't even started on. If you liked the video, hit the thumbs up, and if you want to see more of this series, hit subscribe. After this set of videos, I'll do some devlog videos about Altercation, so stick around for that. Thanks for watching and have fun sleeping!